Well, hey there, and welcome to episode number 11 of Groove, the No Treble podcast, which you can always find at notreble.com. My name is Mitch Joel, and let's get on with the show.
So, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, my name is Alain Caron. I'm a bass player, composer, producer, mainly bass player, obviously. I live in Boucherville, Quebec, Canada. Always, I'm from here. Not from this city, but from Quebec. And I spent some time in New York and then also in Paris. And then I'm back. I moved back here about 20 years ago.
Right. And so this is fortunate because I happen to live in Montreal. And so we thought, let's do this. We're sitting here in your beautiful backyard next to your studio, which I'll sneak some peeks later and see where the magic happens, right?
Yeah, well, we had this house built like 13 years ago. And I had the choice to have it's not a big studio, but just enough. I can record drums and, whatever. And I can mix with my own schedule, which I really, I think is priceless. Right. And then, I'm very relaxed here. I can practice and then test my amps and whatever.
So what's a day like for you? I mean, is it you hang out, studio? What's the day like for you typically in this part of the season?
Well, this part, it's very, very different, but all year long I have different things to do. I have my own record company that I built like years ago, mainly for my records. I'm not producing any other artist. So that was a little bit tough at the beginning because I had to change my way of thinking, and it was a little bit hard. Now it's okay because I got used to it, and I invest a lot of time learning it and then be comfortable with it. So mainly when I'm at home, depending on the project I have, upcoming things, I do mainly business in the morning because I do deal with Europe quite a bit, so it's 6 hours difference. So in the morning it's perfect for me, and I'm quite an early bird. I like to I spent so many years, living nighttime. Yeah. And then sleeping in the daytime, so it's totally different for me, and I like to live with the sun. So anyway, so I do a little bit of business, and then and because let's say my office is separated from the studio, I have no internet in the studio, I turn off the phone. So when I'm in the studio, mainly in the afternoon, or whatever I'm done with the business, then I go in the studio and I work in the studio. But I do also do a lot of sports. When I'm home, I do a lot of, bicycle. So I do that quite a bit. So it's a balance of all these things. And then it all depends. Before I go on the road, if I have a tour, so then I practice, I get, stay in shape and all that. And then try work on new things, different things. Or if I'm planning to do another record, so then I spend some time writing and then searching and trying to find ideas and then try to be smart.
Do you look at your life, Alain, and think I have a very fortunate life, or do you feel that even though it's fortunate, maybe it's still a hard life?
No, I don't think it's hard. It's demanding. You have to be focused, disciplined. But I feel very fortunate, obviously.
Do you say focused and disciplined only because, it's easy to blow a day off if you want to? I mean, because it's your own...
Exactly. So it's very easy to say, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. But I'm very, very disciplined in a way. So if I have to do this, and then even though, I think sports brings that to me. If I want to be in good shape, you got to keep doing it. If you stop doing it for a week, then you go back. You lose. The same thing for music. You got to keep your brain working, your fingers. It's playing an instrument. It's also physical. So and the connection between your fingers, your body, and your brain, especially for improvised music, you got to keep the connections sharp. So I said I approached it the same way, and I think I had it from the very beginning, probably from my family. I'm the youngest of 11 children. I was born,
Which is crazy.
Well,
it's crazy. You don't really meet people
well,
who have that. That's an amazing thing.
Well, I'm 60 years old now. I'm the youngest. So it's quite, my older sister is 80. My father passed away. My mother passed away. She would be 100 years old this year. But she passed away. So it's quite, to me, it's another generation. And especially I was born on a farm. My father was a farmer. Really far away from the city. Very different lifestyle. Very, very different. I know a lot of people where I come from where they have 12, 13, even 18 child. So, it's for me, it's if I look around me nowadays, most couples have 1, 2, 3 maybe. It's very expensive to have children now. It's very demanding. It's back in the days on the farm. The oldest child would help my mother and father, and then that was a team, a group, a gang.
It's a gang.
That was a lot of fun. We still have a reunion every year. Actually, this coming weekend we meet all my brothers and sisters. We meet with all their. It's a big party. It's fun, and we get along very well. So it's cool, very cool.
There's a lot of things in there that I want to sort of unpack with you. One is, how does the electric bass find its way to that farm?
Well, it's not a mystery. My mother was an artist at soul. She would write poems. She would sing. We had a piano in the house. We had a guitar. My mother would play violin after dinner. She was an artist. She was. But, back in the days, she was a mother. That was a full-time job, my friend. But she was, my brothers and sisters, they all sang and played a little bit of the instrument. And two of my sisters got a little bit deeper in, so they started to sing it in wedding bands and top 40 bands in the weekends. This is where I got the connection with the outside world, because they started playing with this group, weekend, amateur band, but pretty good. And then the musician would come in our house to rehearse, whatever, and then I got hooked right away. First of all, through my mother, because music was very, very present in the house. So from the very, very young age, as I think 5, 6 years old, whatever, I already knew that I would be a musician. And then when I was 9, well, I think 10 years old, I went to an amateur contest, playing guitar and singing, and I won this contest. And the backup band, they asked me if I wanted to join the band on weekends. I was 11 years old. So my parents said, okay, can you imagine? Let your kid go every weekend playing in bars?
They were just happy to have the youngest of 11. They were like, we'll have 10 on the weekend. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. We can let that one go. No, but they trusted me, and I was very, very serious. The thing is, my father was a very, very, very traditional man, but very intelligent. And he trusted me. He looked at me, the way he looked at me in the eyes, said, be serious, and then do it well.
We have Alain's cat here. It's great.
My cat.
It's awesome.
He's always...
I love ambient noise in when you do recordings, and to me, it's the most amazing thing to have Alain's cat. We have...
Hey.
What's the cat's name?
Saku.
Saku,
like Saku Koivu. And so that's it. So I won this contest, started to play in this band every weekend. I was playing guitar, and the keyboard player was an ex-bass player. That was keyboard, guitar, myself, and drums, and a singer. And then this keyboard player used to be a bass player, a very good bass player. And then on some tunes, he said, hey, I'd like to play accordion. He was a great accordion player. He said, I'll teach you how to play the bass. So he gave me the bass, he showed me the bass lines, and I really loved it. Because I was playing guitar and drums a little bit. I've never been a good drummer or guitar player. And then when I started playing the bass, I said, cool, this is a guitar that plays drums. Because
interesting. Okay.
Very interesting, huh?
Because you're young to have made that connection. Like, that's a really strange place to be.
Yeah, because you play guitar, you start playing for a couple of bars, but the band keeps going. You know, when you play the bass or the drums, you have to be there. You're responsible. I think it's part of your character. You're part of who you are. I'm very... I like to take care of business, you know. So playing bass for me is perfect. And then drums. I wanted to deal with harmony as well. So bass was the right instrument for me.
Was there a bass in the house then, or was it at that moment where you got a bass and then you started bringing it back to that? I mean, you're a young guy. You're 11, 12 years old at this point.
Exactly. I was 11, 12 years old. So I started playing this Fender Jazz bass that this keyboard player had. And then he would lend me the instrument to bring home and practice. The thing is, the couple of years, and then a summer, one of my sister's band, the bass player left. And they were looking for a bass player for the summer. I said, raised my hands, because that was a little bit more professional band. They were playing 7 nights a week, and they were traveling around. I said, okay, I was 14 years old. And then I said, okay, that's my gig. I can do it. So I picked it up right away, no problem. I was playing the bass. I was 14. So when September came, I said, I don't want to go back to school. I want to stay in the band because the band was traveling. It was a professional band. So I sat down with my parents. I said, listen, we're not a rich family. There's no music schools around. I want to be a musician, as you know. It's pretty obvious. Let me go, and I'll do it right. And they said, okay.
At how old? You're how?
14.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Okay.
That's. I look at it now. It's
even for that generation, it's still crazy a little bit.
Well, for my father, that was not that, because all my brothers and sisters, they started working at a very, very young age. This is how it worked, you know, on where I come from. At 14, 15, 16 years old, you started working, you know, either in another farmer's, you know, like or whatever, you know. And he said, okay, you can make money, and then you look serious, and you like what you're doing, so I trust you. Go. It's amazing. Think about it.
Now I have a million other questions. So hold on. So you don't have a high school degree?
No. I went to school eight years.
Wow. But then you went to Berkeley.
I went to Berkeley. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't they want to see like a high school?
No.
That was audition based.
No. Berkeley, you show the money and it's fine. Okay. This is the way. They obviously have a musical audition when you to enter, but they didn't ask you if you know.
It wasn't about your previous education level or anything like that.
No.
Wow, that's
as long as you can read.
About you. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're fast forwarding many, many years, and it's like it worked out. I mean, you really are someone who obviously is dedicated to a path. You have to have something in you, willpower. There's a drive in you.
Definitely. Now I look at it. I'm 60 years old, so I look at my life. Definitely coming from a small place, a small village where.
I mean, we're talking small, like
very, very small. Saint-Éloi was like I don't know. Back in the days, was maybe 1,000.
Yeah, I was going to say something.
And now it's less than 1,000. So I had to leave. I knew right away that I had to leave if I wanted to make a career. But as I told you, I was very, very serious. So I started playing top 40 bands 7 nights a week, from 14 years old up to 19, something like that.
When you say playing, did you start doing theory then, or was it no theory-based ear? What were you doing?
I heard an Oscar Peterson record when I was 14 years old. I bought this record for $1. Some guy wanted to sell it. I said, I don't like this music. It sucks. I said, okay, I'll listen to it. Because I was already listening to Motown music, and then Wilson Pickett, Joe Tex, Otis Redding. This kind of music was really attract my attention a lot more than progressive rock. And I was listening. Then I started listening to Blood, Sweat and Tears, Tower of Power, all this kind of music, which had
there's a bass and funk intonation in there.
Definitely, and also a lot of jazz harmony as well. That was rich harmonically and very rich rhythmically and sonically as well. And then when I heard Ray Brown with Oscar Peterson, I said, what the hell is that? Because I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure, why does he play these notes? It doesn't make sense to me, but I love it. And then I felt something that the other music didn't have, and now I know that was improvisation. They were on the edge. Oscar Peterson was never on the edge. Was always in control, like Ray Brown. Right. But I could feel they were dealing with talking to each other. So from that moment, I said, I need to know what's going on in there. So I started to buy books, all the books I could find, and then take private lessons, and then ask questions to everybody. I was a pain in the butt.
Was
for
it hard
everybody.
to catch up in terms of the theory part? Because obviously, as a player, you have a natural. You were progressing.
Yeah.
So I found, especially because I came to theory late.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was like we're really learning another language here, and I felt like I was neglecting the playing because the theory became so complex for me. Like I got trapped in almost like a.
Yep.
It was almost like being literally in a terrible place. Like I couldn't figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I experienced it from the beginning.
It's like a purgatory almost.
Yeah. This is the hardest part. This is what I'm trying to teach now. Every time I do a clinic, I try to make the connection between having fun, playing music, which is a language, and talking naturally, like a child, like a baby. You talk, but you don't necessarily know how to write it, how to explain what you're saying. So this is where the theory of the grammar of music comes together with it. It took me a long time to figure it out because the first time I went to take a lesson, I opened a book and said, "Okay, I got to read music." Oh shit, that's a drag. I don't like it. And then when you start dealing with scales, oh my God, it's because it takes a long time to find the music in there. When the teacher says, "Okay, here's a C major scale," or "Here are the modes," we cannot find the music in there. So it took me a long time to figure it out, but I was kind of how do you say, stubborn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not stubborn. You were probably focused on trying to make that connection.
Exactly, because I knew that was the key. Because I asked professional players and they all said, "You don't know your chord changes? How can you improvise?" If it's like if I learn a new language, but I learned this new language only by sound, how can you have a conversation with someone?
Right.
This is how I figured, because my English is not my mother language, but I was singing when I was doing top 40 bands. I was singing in English because I would learn the tunes just by the sound.
It's phonetic. Yeah.
And I said, okay, now I get it. If I want to be able to improvise and talk with the other musician, I need to know the language. I need to hear a difference between a minor chords and major chords. The sound of it, I could hear it, but I couldn't figure it out. So I couldn't find the right notes. And I was playing. I said, what is the next note? How come I play that note doesn't work? Because normally my shape, the shape number 3 that I play doesn't work on that chord. And then from that moment, I said, I need to find all these answers. And I started studying.
So you talked about the physicality of it. And this is a concept that I think musicians know and understand, but they don't often talk about, I find. And I was having a conversation on this podcast with Jerry Drummond. Mm-hmm. And one of the cores for him is he almost believes that you can't do anything unless you have the ability to be strong and sustain it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like just hitting an E string for 5 hours and just making it consistent and strong.
Right.
And, when I think about your playing, I sometimes my ears get fooled because it's so, you can be so machine-like in your delivery. It's so precise.
Well.
That you must, that has to be something that, you mentioned, but is it something you focus on too? Not just the notes and the phrasing, but literally the persistence of that.
Right.
It sounds so near perfect.
Well,
it's
perfect.
The technicalness of what you're known for.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing so much in top 40 band and making people dance. So the first thing you need to have is a good time, a good rhythm. And then when I started to improvise and I started playing with other musicians, I found a lot of guys were playing the right notes, but they didn't have the groove. and the dancing approach, which is what we call the pocket or the groove.
Right.
You know, it's all rhythm. And especially when I met the guys from Uzeb, we focused a lot on how to deliver a strong impact, sonic impact. And I realized to have, especially when you play through a sound system, you play loud. If you're not precise, it's a big, loud, not precise thing.
Mushy. It's mushy.
That's right. And the more you're precise, the more you're together, the more the band is tight, the more of an impact you have. And then when we started recording, so you hear right away, you said, okay, we had fun last night, but listen to this recording. We're not together, guys. So we started focusing on playing tight. It all depends. When you play music, there's a list of priority. Play fast, play the right notes, play whatever, you know.
Right.
When some people ask me sometimes, how you play in tune on fretless? I said, make it your priority. Instead of playing fast or playing whatever, make it your priority. I want to play in tune. So your brain change. You know, each note you pay attention and you're tuning. And then becomes, after a while, you're playing tune. Because you focus on it. So I focus a long time on being precise and playing right. But as you said, it's very hard to sustain that.
Right.
Because
it's hard to learn, and then it's hard as you get older.
Exactly.
To keep that.
Yeah.
That who your voice is almost alive.
Yeah. I know for sure. I'm in very good shape physically, you know.
Looks great. Yeah.
But I've noticed that I cannot play as fast as I could. Definitely. It's. But I'm trying to focus on the right choice of notes.
Yeah. So, when you think about your life, and clearly you're doing amazing things, and you have a ways to go. You're not that old.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see your life though as Uzeb and then Alain Caron? Like,
of
do you
course.
see you do?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I have 3 or 4 lives.
No, for sure. But I mean, in terms of like, if someone were studying you, Alain, I think they would go, well, there's Uzeb, and then there was Alain. It's a.
Well, no, I don't think it's very, very different, but it is. Uzeb, first of all, there was a group, so I was part of the group. You know, and that's one of the main reason we decided to stop this band, because especially the guitar player, which is a great composer, a great musician, but also a great leader. And I had it too, you know. I wanted to write my own music and make the final decision, because every tune you write, every arrangement you make, every record, you know, you make. As a producer, as an arranger, there's always someone. It can go in many different directions. You know, when you write a tune, there's always a point where you say, I can put that chord or that chord. I can change the melody. Someone has to, someone has to make the final decision.
Right.
As a band, it's a compromise. That's what made the sound of Uzeb. But at some point, I wanted to be 100% of myself.
But is it that also broke the band then?
Well, not broke the band. That was an obvious decision at some point. Because after 10 years with this band, we said, I think we did
so much. Yeah,
we did everything we could. After this last tour, we did the world tour. The band was so hot. Because I watched the video. That was an amazing trio. The performance was incredible. The sound was tight. It was very, very hip. So we said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do next? Do backflips and do whatever. So we decided, okay, we're going to take a break. And then we're going to work on our solo career. But we realized right away that to develop a solo career, you cannot do this in 1 year. It takes years to develop your voice and then to be known as Alain Caron. For years, I've been the ex-Uzeb bass player.
Right.
And even now, after 22 years, 23 years, 22 years. People say, "Oh, you're the Uzeb bass player." Can you imagine? You know, so I realized right away. So, well, it's going to be impossible. Or we keep, you know, doing it on the side. But the guitar player started doing film scoring, and then Michel, he has an incredible career, and then he's doing great. He's writing incredible music. But I wanted to stay in the jazz path, so I went to New York, starting playing with Mike Stern and other people, and I went to Paris and started playing with Didi Lockwood. I did a record there, so I developed my career.
And Paul Brochu?
Paul stayed an amazing career, but Paul was not writing music. He started his own band after Uzeb, but he said, well, he was first call drummer in town, so he was so busy and so good. He's still incredible. He's still playing really great, better than ever. So he focused on his drumming career, and also as a teacher. He's a great teacher. He's been teaching in university, and then we play whenever we can. We play together.
What does that mean? Because now you're sort of like, you're smiling in a different way now.
Well, because it's always so much fun to play with him. Because we played a lot together. So we have a connection that we cannot explain, but it works. Right. We have all these hours of traveling in a van, or drinking beers together and playing. So it's like a second nature. We know each other very, very well. It's always a great pleasure to play with Paul.
As an outsider who looks at it and a fan of the band and a fan of that type of music, and you told us sort of that final tour, in my brain what I was thinking was, it must be hard because you don't want to become a parody of yourself. Mm-hmm. You want to keep pushing the boundaries of what you as three people are doing to build a band.
Yeah.
But you sometimes get to an accelerated point where it's almost like you are just trying to be Uzeb versus trying to be the best three musicians as a band that you can be. Does that make sense at all?
Well, no, that was not exactly that. Because Uzeb, we had a natural chemistry. Those three guys, the result of our three brains, our three musical approach, had this automatic result. But in Uzeb, we had different influences. We had this bebop influence. We had the rock influence.
Very progressive, yeah.
And then we had the, let's say, R&B influence. That was that fusion of Uzeb. Bebop, rock, rhythm and blues.
And fusion. I mean, as that a genre that...
Well, to me, fusion could be anything. I still hear fusion. Right. Fusion, to me, it's not a time from that year to that year. Because fusion is like the 80s, Right. And then to me, fusion, it still exists. But it's a different type of fusion, obviously, I think one of the first fusion was Dizzy Gillespie when he fusioned with Cuban music. Right. And then fusion was, Miles Davis, making rock, and then, but that was jazz rock.
Yeah.
But he had also other influences, when he had Don Elias playing percussion with him. That was not rock. That was, Latin, right. South American music into that. So fusion is a mix of different influences and for different genres. And so we're still doing it. My fusion now, my music is still fusion, but it's not a fusion of the 70s for sure.
So talk a bit about that progression of your music and what you... Is it the type of thing where it's time for a new album and Alain says to himself, okay, like I need to find other influences? Is it the type of thing where you think, okay, my fan base knows who I am and I need to take that journey? Because now that you're by yourself, I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking that the other week I was listening on the radio to a conversation with the guys in U2, and Bono was saying that he believes a lot of the great artists sort of fail as they go solo because they don't have other members to call them on their BS.
Yeah.
And that there's just sort of something about sitting in a room where you're not Bono, the Christ figure, and you're just a guy with four other guys trying to do it. And, you go your own way, you're doing your own thing, and you're trying to make the fans happy, you're trying to satiate an artist, which is you. What's the reconciliation for that?
Well, I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly, but I think I do. It's hard to for me now to write a new album.
Okay.
It's becoming hard. I think Chick Corea said once, "You write the same tune all your life.
Right.
You just keep
you got my
improving
question.
it.
You got it totally.
You just keep improving it." So, what I tried, I realized one thing very important at the very beginning of my career, even in Uzeb, because I have some kind of two personality, or maybe, but two strong personality. I like the performance. I like the thing that's groove, and then the complexity. But I'm also love ballads, romantic, very melodic things. So those are two worlds that are always on my record. And then all my fans, some say, "Why do you play those ballads?"
Right.
And a lot of people say, "Why do you play this slap bass?" So that's part of my world. It's part of me. So on all my records, those two worlds are always there. So I did a record called Conversation.
I don't know if you know this, but that is my favorite thing you've ever done.
Well, you look.
And it's crazy to say because I grew up in the 80s and followed the band and the progression and all that. And living in this city, people listening don't realize, I mean, you guys were gods. And it's interesting that if I reflect on your catalog, I can listen to Conversations on repeat all day, and I've done it. So it's interesting that...
It's very interesting, huh? So a lot of people say, no drums, and,
it's the greatest album.
Well, so this is what I had in mind. I said, okay, I'll do something very, very different. No drums. I play my acoustic bass, a 6-string acoustic bass, and then very jazz. The mentality, and then the concept of this chord changes, melody, we improvise on the chord changes, and then, a very intimate, obviously 2 persons, and that's it. My electric band, the latest record, I did multiple faces. We recorded live in studio with the same guys that played on the previous record, and I gave them a lot more space. I trust these guys. I love the way they play. It seems that they like to play with me because when I call them, they say yes, we'll do it. So I said, okay, guys, I'll leave you a lot more space, And then I found it very, very interesting. They brought a lot of inputs, to my music, and then it's a lot more organic because we recorded live together. So that was a good approach to make it different. Now I'm thinking about doing another record. I did a concert at the Jazz Festival this summer with John Roney, my piano player. I said my piano player. It's not my piano player. It's my friend, and he has an amazing career. So we chose some tunes of mine, and then I told John, make arrangements for a string quartet, because I wanted to play with strings for many years, and said okay. And John said okay, it's a good challenge. So he made arrangements, and then he brought it to a different place. So this is still my music, but I would never done that kind of arrangement on that, and I find it very, very refreshing. So I think I'll try to record that music on the next record, and then that will be a different side of me.
I'm not sure I caught it, but I want to have you go a bit down that road because Conversations was such an amazing album for me. It sounds almost like you were sort of saying it was a very different album for you. Was it satisfying? Was it something where you were like, I'm totally into that, or was it I needed a diversion from what people know as the Alain Caron brand almost?
No, because I played a lot of upright bass, when I first arrived in Montreal, and I was playing standards and I was playing trio music. I always loved playing in trio, because especially piano, bass, and drums, because it's 3 different things, and then you fit together. You're free, and then you have a role to fulfill, and then I loved it. And then playing, I did a lot of duet as well, and then playing duets, it's even harder It's very hard to play in duets because you have to trust, you need a mutual trust rhythmically. Because most of the time I notice when you play in duet, both musicians try to fill the holes because we're afraid of the holes. The time keeps going, but nobody plays. We don't hear anyone banging on something to keep the time. So I find it very, very challenging. And for many years, I said, I'll do duet records. No, I'm very, very, very proud of this record. And all the piano players who played on this record, they played beautifully. And they were all very respectful, and they seemed to enjoy playing my music. So it was incredible. Oliver Jones came to my studio and played my music. I can die now.
We're good, yeah. There's a plot over here to our left that you can just lie down
Well,
in. Yeah.
no, that was great. So, and I did a lot of concerts, mainly with François Bourassa and also with Lorraine Desmarais. So that's why now the next record with John Rooney and the string quartet will be the continuity of this. It's the same idea, but it's something I definitely want to keep doing.
How do your tastes change as you get older? And then, like now, when you're in your present state of where you're at, do you find that you become more willing to go out and explore, more open, or do you find that as I get older, I get more set in my ways? And I say that because human beings, by nature, when we get older, we get very set in our ways. We don't explore more, but artists sometimes do.
I have to push myself to try to do new things and then explore different things. It's becoming harder and harder, though, because I've been playing so much, and then I have some habits and some I do when I play a chord, I play that way. So I have to find new ways. So that's why I still practice, to find new language and new words and new how to make new. As I told you, music to me is a language. So I try to find new phrases and new words and different ways to express myself. But at the end of the day, I always be myself. I'll never be able to play like other guys.
But that's what makes you so unique, is that when you talk about practice, I'm like, well, what does he practice? Because the way your fingers move across the bass is an incredible sight to behold, and you can sort of frame that and put that in the side. And then I watch you slap, and I'm like, oh, come on, who can do that? And then I watch you on a fretless, I'm like, come on, like you embody a lot of different styles within the one instrument that typically a person might just be known for the way they do a fretless. They might just be known for the way they slap. They might just be known for the way they work a bass with two fingers. Yeah. You've brought this very unique, powerful you that I think it's for sure there's a jealousy factor for other musicians, but in terms of as an artist, those are different skills that you're always having to keep up.
Yeah, from the very, very beginning when I started playing fretless, even before Jaco, I was playing fretless. But so when I heard Jaco, I said, "Well,
you played a real fretless. He didn't. He yanked the frets out. He didn't."
Yeah. That was a friend of mine in Rimouski, Noël Côté. He had a fretless bass called the brand was a Lancer. I said, I loved it. I loved that instrument, so I started playing it. And then after a while, the band said, no, we want to have a regular bass. So I went back to my precision bass. But when I heard Jaco, I said, oh, my God. This is very, very, very strong, guys. It's going to be impossible to go that path. Because he always be Jaco Pastorius. Yeah. It'll be impossible to go there. So I stopped playing electric bass. And
wow.
So
he actually influenced you to stop playing. That's like a crazy thing too.
I stopped playing.
No, you don't.
I stopped practicing electric bass. And I focused on upright bass. And I was practicing only upright bass. And then I heard Stanley Clarke. I said, wow, this is pretty cool. That sound, hitting the strings. And I started slapping. But I said, same thing. I said, wow, it's going to be impossible to go there. And then other guys came up, on the scene, like Marcus and other guys. I said, okay, I'll go back to fretless, but I'll have my own fretless and my own sound. A wider register, first of all with a lower string, And then quickly, like a month after, I said, I'll add another string to have a wider register and a different tone. So I worked with different luthiers to find my sound. And then I never listened to Jaco after that. Yeah, I heard Jaco,
right? Okay.
But I started working. I never copied a Jaco lick or whatever. I didn't want to. I felt I wanted to do it because I found it so cool and so beautiful, but I refused to do it because if I do it, right away I fall in that trap and sound like Jaco. So I started listening to Scott LaFaro, Eddie Gomez, all the upright bass players, and then I started copying sax solos and then taking lessons with piano players to get away from that. So I developed my own sound. Now I know that I have my own signature identity on fretless, which is very far away from Jaco. So I'm very proud of that. And then I decided to do the same thing with fretted. I work on the different techniques, so I was able to play melody with the slap sound, hitting and pulling the strings, but be able to go up and down on a 6-string fretted bass. It's very hard.
Very hard. And so, does practice change for you now? I mean, is it a very different experience than when you're trying to figure this stuff out versus now, or is now almost more challenging because you have the physical skills, but now you need to get the music out more?
Well, no. I still practice my technique. Oh, it's still a lot
it's like going to the gym. It's like a workout.
Yeah, definitely. And there's still a lot of things that I cannot do, but I wanted to do. So I still keep practicing. And in terms of language, as I said, I study music as a language. So all the notes to me, it's like vowels and consonants. And I try to make words. And to be smart, tell a story. I'm not as flashy as I was when I was younger. Try to impress people by playing fast.
Complexity.
I'll leave it to younger people. And some young players they do it so, like Adrian Ferro, or these guys are just amazing technically, and they played some amazing music. It's really far from it's so different for me. So I'm not trying to go there anymore because it's impossible for me to win. It's not only to win. I'm very good. I'm a competitor. I've always been. So I don't want to go there and compete. I just want to play beautiful music, the best I can, and then music that I enjoy and try to make people feel good. I'm not saying that I will play simple music. It's not that. I will play the best music I can do.
Do you feel that the instrument is starting much more to get its sort of respect? I mean, it's a hard it's a hard instrument to sort of capture. It's a hard instrument for, I don't say the mass population, but yeah, the masses to really understand what this music is, what the instrument does. It's complex in its simplicity almost.
True. Well, the basic role of the bass, it's a support instrument, like it's a fundamental. Once you know harmony, you know that the bass notes is very, very important. If you play a D triad and if you play a B flat bass note, it's a different chord than if you play a C bass note or an E note over a D triad. So once you understand harmony and you sit down on the piano and then you figure it out, you become a better bass player. So obviously, to me, it's not a problem to play the bass and not be in the front, because I love the role of the instrument. I like, as I said earlier, being responsible and then taking care of business. I like doing that. On the other hand, I develop a voice to be in front of the stage also, to be the voice, to carry the melody, to be to play the melody. I love doing that too, but it's not my first role. So people start to understand, oh, you have a 6-string, you play guitar? No. Listen to that lobby. It's like 27 hertz, something like that. It's not a guitar. More and more people start to hear the bass as a complete instrument, especially with all these new guys that can play. Michael Mennering, that can do a whole concert by himself. Dominique Di Piazza, for example, in France, that can play solo pieces that are incredible. And then Adrien Ferraud that can play anything on bass. It's a complete instrument that plays music.
So Michael, who we've had on the show, is an amazing talent. Obviously, he would say that this is still such a relatively new instrument. Is his argument?
True.
It's 50, 60 years old, and that the evolution has just begun. He feels like he has an amazing amount of time to go with it and to still push it forward. Do you see it that way, or do you look at it more in terms of like your life cycle? Like, I'm 60, I'm trying to do this other stuff. I don't know how much exploration is left on this thing.
For sure, I don't know how much exploration is left to. When I thought it would be impossible to play faster than Jeff Berlin or even and then these guys now like Adrian plays. It's ridiculous.
What's like the joke? The joke that I say to people is, if you follow, and I'm not an extreme sports guy, but until the first guy was able to go on his motocross and do a backflip, right, nobody could. But the minute he did, everybody could.
It's like Usain Bolt,
exactly. Same
you
story.
do the 100 meters it's an arrow.
Right.
So someone always will take it to another level. Is there a limit? Probably. But we don't know that yet.
We're not there yet. Yeah.
We're definitely not there yet. There's so much music to be played. I think bass players, they have to more. If you want to be a good player, a bass player nowadays, and then make your be a part of it, you need to know harmony. You need to be a complete musician. As opposed in the past, if you a good bass player, didn't have to understand it all. You play 1-5, 1-5, and then that's it. And then be very strong and learn your parts, and then have a very strong rhythm. Be able to read music. That was quite enough.
Do you feel that you've been able to express your art in the world, or do you still look at it and go, it hasn't been the exact thing that's in the brain to get out into the audio?
Of course, I haven't scratched the surface of what I'd love to do.
Okay.
The more it seems like the more I enter the world of music, the wider it gets, and then the wider I say, oh my God, there's so much to do with these 12 notes still. There's so much to say still. I hear, all the other influence. I heard the other day the new trio of Avishai Cohen.
Yeah.
My God, they take a trio. It's a traditional format, piano, bass, and drums, and they take it a total different place. I love it. It's a total different music, and they improvise, complex rhythm, and it's so fluid. It's so musical. It's amazing. Very different than Oscar Peterson trio or even, Bill Evans trio. It's amazing. So you see.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time, Alain.
Well, my pleasure.